Okay, perfect. Um, so could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. How you doing? My name is Alonte Holiday. I'm an attorney in Washington, D.C.
And so Alonte, I did want to ask, could you please describe your experience entering college? Did you ever question your opportunity to go to college?
Yeah, it was a weird experience because I was the type of person who, I didn't like writing. I didn't like, I really wanted to play basketball. That was kind of the thing that I wanted to do. And so for me, college was something that was I was supposed to do, but I really didn't feel a lot of connection to. And so I didn't really even really fill out a lot of applications. And I think part of it was because I did kind of doubt myself, right? I didn't think that I was that type of person. um, and so I filled out only one application. Luckily, I was accepted to the school. And, once getting there, that's when I kind of built my confidence in school a little bit more.
Interesting. That's amazing. Th could you describe a moment where you felt alone?
So I didn't, I don't know if I really felt alone. Luckily, I've always had some very, very supportive family, right? I think there were some times in which I felt, I would say, maybe lost because in school, I was, again, school was, it was never great for me, right? I hated reading. I know I struggled with ADHD, kind of figuring out that that was the reason for a lot of my problems. And so I never really felt alone because luckily I had some really good friends, some really good family, but I did feel lost at times, right? Sometimes it felt like everybody just got this whole school thing a little bit more than I did. But luckily, with the support of family, being someone who, it was never really an option for me to give up. I kind of figured out what I had to do to get my stride going forward.
Wow, that's incredible. So you mentioned about being, lost. So would you say your family has been a great support system, family and friends that's who you look towards?
Yeah, man. I still remember. I'll never forget the day that I was in college. I was starting to think about possibly going to law school, and I was sitting with my dad, and I just thought to myself, like, look, law school's for the smart kids, right? And I'm not really one of those people. I graduated high school with a 2.5 GPA. I had a 19 ACT, so it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great by any means. And so I always thought that, hey, no, that was more for the really smart people. And I remember having this conversation, like a 2 hour conversation in the car with my dad, just letting me know, like, look, anything that I want to do, I could do it. Him really instilling that in me, like, look, if you want to be a lawyer, an astrophysicist, an astronaut, like anything, like you have, as long as you work hard, you can do it. And so I can honestly say I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for like having, and my mom was the same way, right? Having a really strong support system.
Wow, okay. That's great. So, I would you suggest students to look for a support system? How would you, direct them if they're lost or if they're in this situation?
Yeah, so one thing, having a support system is very important, especially if you're, questioning some things, you feel lost, you feel alone. I feel like having, my family, I've always been a family person. I went back home pretty much every holiday. But I had some other friends who weren't as close with their family, but we still had like different organizations that we went through, right? So you can find family is family and friends, I feel like sometimes synonymous, right? Some of my friends, their family was the friends that we met while we were in college and the organizations that we're a part of. I joined a fraternity, which was, though the guys that I joined the fraternity with, those are my brothers, right? Blood does not make us any closer. And I feel like when you're struggling, you feel lost, you feel alone, sometimes being able to turn to some of these people that you build relationships with, that could be the difference in you being able to get past that hurdle that you're going through. And so I suggest, there are tons of different organizations within colleges. You have your fraternities and basketball teams, but I think there was an organization called the Humans and Zombies Club, right? Where people literally used to run around the campus with headbands, and one group is a zombie, while one group is a human. And for some people, it was a little weird, but they really enjoyed what they did. And I feel like there are all types of opportunities that you can find to where you can get that type of connection in college, law school, whatever stage of your life that you're on.
Great. No, that's a great experience. Thank you for sharing that. And that leads into the next question, how did you discover yourself on campus, like in school? How did you find your calling? You said that you were involved in a fraternity. You got out of your comfort zone. How was that process? Was it, did you just express that?
Yeah, so it really got to, I think it was around like the end of my sophomore year, my junior year, where I really had to jump out of my comfort zone a little bit. One thing is, when I got to college, it was all about basketball, and that was kind of the connection that I was making was from basketball. I know it got to a point to where, I had to start thinking about the next step. Like, what do I do? You're in college and everything is cool while you're in there, but what's the next step? What are you going to do next? And I still remember walking in and seeing someone practicing an opening statement for the mock trial team. And I'm like, yo, that's actually pretty cool. And so reaching out and going and starting with the mock trial team was something that was big for me. I am the type of person where I just try to go for it. And so I end up meeting the coach and, trying out for the team and really working with them. And that was something that, I had been on teams before, but that was kind of a new experience for me because it's like my real introduction to like legal style work. And my suggestion is just go for it, right? I feel like there's a lot of times where you can look back and you learn from each experience, but I feel like it's so much better to go for it and learn from it than to say, oh man, I wish I would have jumped in. I wish I would have did X, Y, and Z. And so my suggestion is, if you're feeling it, if you have some interest in it, especially because there's so many opportunities, just take that leap, man.
Wow, okay, taking the leap. That's incredible because I know a lot of personally myself, we always have that fear in regards to taking the next step, but because it's so
Right,
unpredictable, but like you mentioned, a lot of it will come with regret if we keep on, thinking of the woulda, shoulda, coulda.
right, right.
Wow. Yeah, leading on to the next question, what was the biggest obstacle you faced during school?
Yeah, my biggest obstacle was just getting in control of my time. For the longest, I was very bad at just tracking time, scheduling, and at the beginning it wasn't too bad because I just focused on classes and I didn't have a ton of them at first. But then when I decided to take that leap, right, and now I have organizations and I became an orientation leader and a tour guide, being someone who wasn't good at scheduling, when you have a full schedule was kind of difficult for me. And so I kind of found a lot of stress from being able to handle that because I had never, up until that point, I had never had a calendar, right? And there were times where, things started to fall a little bit and I would get a little worried because, I'm being late to this meeting and this. And so really learning to be that person that up until that point, I had never been. All throughout high school, let's go to class, go to the gym, come home. Wasn't really a lot to think about, right? And getting to college my junior year, where I'm at a point to where I'm, a president of an organization. I'm going to the gym. I have classes. I'm trying to be part of the mock trial team. If it hit me to a point to where it's like, okay, I have to be somebody different than I had been before, and just really get a hold of, all of my priorities and being able to schedule. And eventually, I figured it out. Still figuring that out to this day, but things got a little bit better.
Great. Oh my gosh. I would say this is also an obstacle for myself currently in undergrad. A lot of it has to do with timing and
Right.
thank you for sharing some resources with the calendars. As you know, I just wanted to jump in with this question with that you're currently doing. How do you manage time with what you're currently doing in your occupation?
Yeah, I managed time very poorly. Yeah, one of the things, just one of the things that I had to learn how to do was, for one, wait. I wake up earlier. For me, it just helps if I'm not rushing throughout the day. So waking up at 6 a.m. when my day doesn't start at 9, it gives me some time to, ease into the day, look at what's going on. Getting a calendar and being able to, no matter what it is, right? Someone mentioned anything that has a date on it, learning to boom, immediately put it down. And one of the biggest things for me, especially with someone who had concentration issues, one of the biggest things that helped me was having, I don't have my watch on me now, but having a watch with a timer on it and a a timer that vibrates when it's over, right? So it helps me get track. There was a lot of times that I would lose track of time and it would mess this up. Having something that lets me know, okay, I have an hour to work on this. Once this timer is up, okay, now I'm looking at my other schedule. It helps me keep track of time a little bit more. But I feel like ultimately you have to figure out what works for you. Is it just a calendar? Is it a timer? Is it, some people just use a paper notebook where they just write every single thing down throughout the day. I found that having my watch and my virtual calendar that's helped me the most.
Wow. Okay, so virtual calendars. Do you so would you say like Google Calendar? Do you have any other specific calendars?
Yeah, so I mean, some people use Google Calendar. I use something called Tick. It's something where I put down my task list. You can look at everything over the month. You can schedule things for specific days and times, and you can even put in subtasks, which is really good for me. So sometimes I'll have a big project, and it's hard to just put one thing on it. So I'll put down the big project, and underneath that project, I'll have all the little things that I need to do. And what helps for me is to be very specific, right? Not even just what I need to do, but where I'm going to do it, what time I'm going to do it. I found that the more general I am, the less helpful it is for me. If I just say, "Hey, find this," okay, that typically doesn't help me. But if it says search this website on this day at the office, the more specific I am, I feel like the more helpful using this app, the more helpful it is for me to really stay on task. And that has kind of been one of the biggest game changers for me as well, is really being specific with the task that I'm trying to do, when, where, and how I'm doing it.
Wow. Okay. I did have one question. I keep on saying wow because it's mind blowing because I know for people like myself, I tend to try to manage my time or schedule my time on Sundays. Usually it's a weekend that I try to start
Yeah,
organizing the week ahead, but I know some people can be overwhelmed with doing that.
right,
Or just looking at a big spreadsheet or a big master calendar. What would you
right.
recommend, or how do you, what's the process for you in regards to scheduling everything?
Yeah, so I try to schedule. I actually do something similar on Sunday where I kind of try to look through the week. I also pick one day out the month where I kind of look at a longer view, like a month, 2 months out. But one thing that I had to learn to do was, give yourself some grace, right? There are some times where things will really get hectic, right? And my calendar, whatever, everything I have planned would kind of get messed up. And what used to happen was it would take me like, a week, 2 weeks, and I would just get so lost. One thing that I do is, okay, it's okay, right? If things get out of whack, if you stay at the gym or you do this thing and your scheduling gets a little bit out of order, okay, take that time, take a maybe an hour in the day just to kind of reorient yourself, right? And so I have my weekly planning, but I also every day just look and see, okay, what are my goals? Another thing that has helped me is I have what I want to do, but I pick my top three and my number one, right? What are the top three things that I want to get done? And what is the number one thing that if everything else went out of whack, everything else, the pipe in the house burst, and I could only get one thing done throughout my day, what is that one thing? I feel like that helps me as far as a confidence to where, okay, even if I didn't get everything done that I wanted to, my one thing I got done, right? I try to shoot for 80% for my top three or 66% for my top three and 100% for my number one must do.
Okay, great. That's great advice. I'll be taking checking that in with my following week for
Uh,
sure. With a busy schedule or just, managing time and, going throughout your week, what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies?
yeah, so I still play basketball a lot. That I feel like one being able to exercise, and I think having that in your life is just as important as the hard work, the schedules, the meetings. I think it's so important to have that thing that relaxes you. And for me, it's playing basketball and playing Monopoly with my wife. Like we are some Monopoly. We love Monopoly. We play it all the time. Just this year, I would definitely say we played a game over 150 games of Monopoly. Kid you not.
Awesome, Monopoly. The basketball's awesome too. Okay, so exercising, going out and really just relaxing and finding a way to exert all the extra, stress. I would agree on that too.
Yeah,
Finding a comfort in going outside and doing something you like, getting outdoors, but also fun. That's awesome that you guys play Monopoly.
yeah. I mean, look, if we played on the PlayStation. I know my family makes fun of us for it, because of how much we play, but it's just something we love. And so I think whatever it is for you, right? I think you should make it a priority. I feel like you have two ends of the spectrum. You have people who maybe are too relaxed, right? And they're not, things are getting thrown out of whack. And then you have the people on the other side to where they're too rigid, too strict, right? To where you don't have fun. It's all about business, no hard work, no play. I think it's very important to have a happy medium, right? To where you're disciplined, you're doing the things that you're supposed to do for work and school, but definitely you have to have that me time, that thing that just gives you joy and gives you, that good mental wellness.
Thank you. Couldn't say it any better. And then I another question. And I think it's one of my greatest questions that I usually ask. I mean, what do you plan to do with the work that you're currently doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's just helping. I will say I don't have any big grand. There's some people who are like, man, I want to change the world in this way, and I want to make this big systematic change. Honestly, my concern is just helping the client that's in front of me. Right? I feel like I have a lot of clients who they're in probably some of the worst positions that a person could be in. Right? And then a lot of them don't have a lot of support, or you have a lot of people who look at them in a way that see them as not like the greatest people in the world, right? And so my biggest focus is I just want to help this client. If I can help this client, I don't need to change the world. I don't need to change the system. I don't need to overhaul everything. If I can have this client say, "Hey, Mr. Holiday, you really helped me. You've helped me with this. You made me feel good. You did this." To me, that's a victory, right? And so if I can just help my client, the clients that I have in front of me, I think that is a success for me.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And then last question. What is your biggest survival tip you have for the first gen students listening?
Ooh, so my biggest survival tip is always get back up, right? I know it sounds really cliche, but there's so many times you're going to learn tips, you're going to hear things, you're going to be very excited to do it, you're going to try it, and sometimes it's going to work, but sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes you're still going to fail. I feel like as long as you have the mindset of no matter how much I fail, no matter how many times things don't work, I am committed to getting better. I am committed to doing what I have to do to make sure that I'm on the path that I want to be on. You will always be successful as long as you're willing to always get back up. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to have people that doubt you. There's going to be some times that you're, doubting yourself. But as long as you're willing to keep going, I promise you, you will be okay.
Wow, thank you for those words of encouragement and wisdom. I really appreciate it. And I would like to thank you for your time and your participation in this recording. So
Appreciate
I'll be ending. Yes. Thank you so much.
it.